we go, everybody. Thank you for joining us on our first episode of Bosses in Action. Expect about 20 to 25 minutes of us going right into it. And today we're going to be talking to Brian Curtis, who's not only a great friend of mine, but he's an active user of Follow Up Boss. And he's going to show us how he runs his mega team. So we're going to dive into some processes and some systems. And for those of you that I missed to say hello to, I know I see people from New Jersey, Chicago, British Columbia. Oh, Whistler. Oh my God. How did I miss Dean? I love Dean, Whistler, dude. Whistler's like one of the most famous, awesome, amazing places that I love. So thanks for joining us. You got Gloria and of course, Todd. All right, Brian, let's go through this process, man, because a little bit ago I outlined, and we can start with this if you want. I outlined like a little flow chart of how it looks for a lead when they come through on a single agent, but I still use this for my team. This way they at least have a visual of what it looks like. And I'm going to share it with you just so we can start with that. And you tell me what you think here. And I know you and I run slightly different, but in essence, pretty similar.
Yeah, you know, the truth of the matter is, Tristan, I run two different teams, and we run one team one way and one team another. There's some crossover in that, but, you know, there's differences. One, we have an ISA model, and one, we're doing a straight-to-agent model. So it's an interesting juxtaposition of those two things. And, you know, I can share some of the things that are good about both models and bad about both models. Happy to do that. So
good. I love it. Well, let's start off with this and tell me what you do slightly differently, because I know you also use call action, right?
I do.
So the most important thing for me for running a team has always been the structure, and so that nothing falls through the cracks. All right. So when you get, because you and I both get YLOPO leads, which is PPC Facebook lead ads. When you get a Google lead, PPC, right here at the beginning where they have that questionnaire filled out through the YLOPO system, right? It automatically dumps into Follow Up Boss as our CRM.
Yes.
And can you take me through the process of what happens for you then? I'm gonna stop sharing it just so you can kind of take us through that.
Sure. And so when I'm talking specifically about YLOPO, I've actually transferred all of those now to Conversion Monster. So we actually have Conversion Monster actually has a seat in my CRM. So they actually reach out and work with those people. But let me talk about what they're doing in essence, because if you're a single agent or if you're an agent with a team without an ISA, you can literally do the same thing. It's just a different human being on the phone. So when we get that lead that comes in, obviously the very first thing that we're going to do is try and reach out to them immediately. If you'd have asked me this question 3 years ago, I would have screamed and stood on top of my desk and say, you absolutely have to call these people or otherwise you're going to lose them. Well, I still believe, and if we're going to talk about some higher intent leads later on in the day, maybe I still believe that's true. But the truth of the matter is text messaging honestly works better in 2020 than it did 5 years ago. And calling is less effective. So basically what we are still reaching out with a call. We are reaching out with a text message. We are reaching out with email. And the beauty of that, especially if you're looking at Follow Up Boss, 100% of that, except for the phone call, can be automated. So you can set up an initial text that goes out that looks something like, I saw that you were browsing on my website and we're just reaching out to make sure that we've got everything set up. I'd love to set up a time to do a quick conversation to make sure that we're providing the value you need. You could do a quick text message, something along those lines. You could also, but here's one thing, when you're talking about especially a Facebook lead, if I were to rank things, Facebook lead to me is the lowest in intent, followed by pay-per-click, and then you get into portals and sign calls. But when you're looking at your low intent leads, the last thing we want to do is scare them away in the first 7 seconds. When are you going to buy a house? When are you going to buy a house? And that's what we used to do with them, right? We'd call them up and go, so when are you looking to buy a house? And what would they always say? We're just looking. And then, there's some scripts you can go down there, but the reality was we don't have to beat these people across the head. they're not reaching out to us and saying, hey, we want to go look at a house today. They're reaching out to us and saying, actually not reaching out at all. They're looking at our website. We're basically offering them a free service and hoping that the law of reciprocity kicks in, and that I've helped you, do searches on the site, and I want you to, work with me. But at the end of the day, these are not always high intent leads. Stop treating them that way. So, come with contribution, talk to these people. How can we help? And here's something, and this is Dale Archdeacon's script, and I love this. I stole it from him. Are you looking to move anytime soon, or are you just window shopping? And window shopping allows them to go, oh, I can have a conversation with this person without being sold something. So I think that's super important to understand when you're doing scripting, whether that's text scripting or phone scripting, that you're reaching out to the people at the right place where they're at based on their funnel. That makes sense?
That does make sense, dude, because I think a lot of agents lose on the opportunity for some of these Facebook or Google leads because they're just too aggressive and they don't know how to nurture correctly. So
yes,
great point. So going into how you run both of your teams, is there a specific process that you have for your team to follow up with these leads wherever you're getting them from? Is it like, hey, you're going to start here and then do this? What does that look like?
We've got an entire list. We are pretty aggressive as far as reaching out. I want to see that you're going to have about 30 contacts in the first 15 days. So, we're looking at text messages, and I'll be happy at some point in time if you want me to share it after this meeting. I could share it and we can put it up in the group. But basically, we're reaching out text message, phone calls. Here's the part that we're not doing in Follow Up Boss is video text, because understand that video text isn't a very effective way to follow up with people, and it's different. So
Brian, on that video text thing, do you also find that leaving a voicemail isn't as a good a thing as it used to be, or does it still work for you?
So I'm not saying it doesn't work. We will run some automated campaigns that have that, but here's the reality. If I leave a voicemail for you, Tristan, you mentioned this, you and I are friends. What's the chance you're even going to listen to my voicemail? And we're friends.
Probably not. I'm just going to call you right back.
Yeah, and I do that all the time. Hey, Bob, I left you a voicemail. Did you listen to it? Nope. Okay, well, let me tell you what I said on my voicemail. So if you're not even going to listen to voicemails from your friends, is it really effective to listen to it? So here's our rule on our team. If you've never spoken with somebody, do not leave them a voicemail. If you have spoken with them, and always call it hang up text. Okay. And and that's exactly, Matt McKernan, I think that's what I send phone call immediately by text. So you want to talk about process. When I'm calling people in a group, and this isn't necessarily new leads, but when I'm calling people in a group, I'm going to auto populate, cut and paste a text message that I'm going to send to every single one of them. Here's a different way to do that as well. Some people in Follow Up Boss will create a text that they're going to use during that calling session. Name that text like AAA. So you know what I'm talking about, so that it basically populates to the top. I'll use it for that one calling service, and then I'll take that AAA off the front of it. So it might be drop the ball. That's one of the scripts that I use as a text message. So we're just reaching out to, we want to make sure that we didn't drop the ball. So instead of renaming that permanently, if I'm going to use that I'm going to call 50 people, I'm going to rename that drip or the auto text fill that you can use in Follow Up Boss. I'm going to rename that AAA drop the ball. So now when I go and I click on a text message that I want to leave, then it's automatically at the top and I can use that. Now, next time I'm going to use something else. I'm just going to take that AAA off there. So whatever I want is going to populate to the top.
Okay. I like that. All right. So I'm going to share my screen again, just so you can take me through a process, only because I have one here. Okay. So you just said kind of something similar here. Agent, call within 5 minutes, call again if no pickup within a minute type thing, right? That's what we do. We don't leave a voicemail. But if my agent does decide to leave a voicemail, they leave a voicemail and then they text them right after the voicemail is left, saying, hey, we just left you a voicemail. Not that the voicemail matters. It's just a matter of the text, right?
Yes.
So take me through that other process that you have that continues along this line.
So we've got to basically, I probably ought to pull it up so I can do it, but I'll do it off the top of my head until I pull that up. But basically, we're looking to have 30 contacts in 15 days. So where did I get that number from? I got that number from very simply understanding that your average internet lead requires 8 follow-ups. So before they actually have a conversation with you. So for me, I want to follow up with that person as quickly as possible. So here's what it looks like for me. Day one, I'm making a phone call, and you said within 5 minutes. So on our team, I would find that completely intolerable, to be honest. A 5-minute reach out is about 4.5 minutes too long.
I'm fired. Bam.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I talk a big game, but expectations versus I'm not going to fire you because you waited 2 minutes to call somebody. But immediately call somebody. Why not? What are you, and here's the thing that we do as well, is we have lead day. So right now on my team in Arkansas, there's only 3 people who are getting leads today. And tomorrow a different 3 people are going to get leads. And then the next day a different 3 people are going to get leads. And that's a team of over 20 people. So why do we do it that way? Well, because I can't be on call 24/7 waiting for my phone to ring and expect, because I'm out showing property, I'm out on a listing appointment, I'm eating dinner with my family, I'm going to my kid's soccer game. So we know on those days that you're on lead day, your job is to immediately call. So that's why we set that up that way. So day one is a phone call immediately. I'm not a big fan of double dials. They do work, but you better be pretty good on a double dial, which is basically
very true. Very true.
Because if you're not, you're going to get this phone call. Who died and who's bleeding and why and somebody pissed off. Now, I'm not saying you can't overcome that. I've overcome it. I'm sure you've overcome it, but I'm not a big fan of setting myself up to have the person who I speak to for the very first time be pissed off at me. So it does work. You just have to weigh that, which is your choice.
Very good point, buddy. Very good point.
So my day one is phone call immediately, text message, 4 hours later, second phone call. So we've had basically 3 reach outs simultaneously, and that's why this isn't on that. We're started an email drip, and that's what Follow Up Boss is doing. So Follow Up Boss, based on whatever lead source, has an email drip that's automatically starting. So I'm not counting that in this contact. It is part of my 30 contacts, but the agent isn't doing it, right? Because all it does is it comes in, action plan starts on Follow Up Boss, and I'm sending emails out to them. I believe in emails. I'm just not counting it as a contact, if that makes sense.
Okay. If that email that you send, they email back, does that count as a contact?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Anytime somebody's reaching back to me, sure. And the reason I say this, though, is I'm always humored by agents who say, well, I contacted them by email 15 times. Well, send me an email and see what the probability that I'm going to respond to it. It's an 8 to 12% contact rate. And also, it didn't take any time, energy, or effort on your part. So A, always do it. But B, don't tell me that you did something amazing by sending an email that a system can do all by itself, right?
That's true, buddy. That's very true. Very true. All right. Let's go into the process a little bit more because you're running 2 teams. Are you still running the one in Arkansas and then the one in Colorado?
Yep, or no? Those are our 2 teams that I run.
All right. So 2 different states, 2 different areas. The demographics is different too, price points and everything. So can you take me through some of the expectations of running this mega team, both of the mega teams a little differently, or is it the same?
So in Colorado, we have an ISA model. So in our ISA model, every single lead, so your flow would immediately go to ISA only. So none of our agents touch a lead until after it goes through the ISA. So we have 3 ISAs. We have coverage basically 7 days a week. And if you're going to have an ISA team, one of the things I would tell you is I would not suggest one person, because you can't have somebody working 7 days a week for 8 to 12 hours a day and expect them not to burn out. So we have coverage. Before we implemented full ISA, we went to 3. And we have 14 agents. So it's not a huge team, but it's a decent sized team. So for 14 agents, we have 3 ISAs. And that's not because one ISA couldn't handle that number of leads. It's because one ISA can't be that available 24/7. But all of this stuff, once again, every single lead is going to come in through Follow Up Boss, and then it's distributed. How is it distributed? It's round robin between our ISAs, depending on who's on and who's off. There are days that all 3 of our ISAs are on. On the weekends, we have 2 of our ISAs on. So basically, they're still working a standard 40-hour week, and all of those leads come in and go through them. But they're going to follow the same exact process that we're going to do. It's phone calls, it's text messages, it's email. Somebody asked, can you remind me what ISA stands for. ISA is Inside Sales Associate. So basically, instead of that going to an agent, then it immediately goes to an Inside Sales Associate. Someone asks, how do I compensate my ISA? I compensate my ISA with a base salary and then a percentage of closing. We have two different models. One has a higher base. So
I like that, dude. All
and
right.
it's going to vary from market to market. That's why I'm not giving you the exact number.
It does. You're right. You're right. I run off of, so the markets I run off of, I was expanded in different areas. I had expanded to Hawaii and I was like, ooh, that was a big learning curve. So now I'm just expanding here to SoCal, like Santa Barbara, Ventura, Los Angeles. And we focus a lot on luxury because we're here, right? So it's a good point that you bring up. Even in areas as close to as where I am, it's still a little different. So great point on that. I had 3 questions, all the same one. Is this recorded? Yes, I think it's recorded. If it's not, don't worry about it. We're going to have the replay on our Facebook community, so you can take a look at it there. And I just put up a link to our YouTube channel as well. We'll do our best to put these up there. And this way, if you subscribe, you at least get all the webinars that you missed. This is episode 1 of Bosses in Action. So do me a favor, click on that YouTube link and subscribe. All right, Brian, tell me when you have the inception of the lead, this is for the non-ISA model, because a lot of agents just run it on their own. They're either a single agent, a partner, or a very small team. So can you take me through that process without the ISA? Who's handling it? And do you have automation in place?
So yeah, for us, it's lead dependent. So for me, I'm a huge automation guy. And what I realized, and this is something that I think that you've been in the industry similar amount of time as I have. So when I started doing general real estate in 2005, this is a number I would say on the average, I got 6 leads a month. So can I keep 6 leads in my head? Yeah, I probably can, right? You know, I've got the majority of that information. I used to, honestly, it was sticky notes and yellow tablets. That's how I ran my business. But you know, when you only got 6 leads a month, it's not that hard. But and here's what happened though. So I don't have these exact statistics, so I'm going to ballpark these. For every house sold, there's approximately 10 leads generated. So in other words, you know, if there's 5 million closings in real estate in 2020, there's probably 50 million internet leads.
True.
What's the importance of that? That means this is what we've been doing. We've been going wide. And what happens when you go wide? You don't build relationships. So we are really focused on going deep. So a couple of things that we found out. First of all, don't let your agents or don't let yourself have too many leads assigned to you. If you have 4,000 leads assigned to you, you might as well have 10 leads assigned to you. It's ineffective. You're missing deals every single day. So what happens? Lead comes in. We do send it through automation. I'm using call action. We have text message drips and voicemail drop drips that all run on these. As soon as somebody responds, then an agent immediately picks that up. So we are understanding that, again, for me to be able to go deep, I've got to get through all those leads. You know, we're processing approximately 1,200 leads a month on our Arkansas team. So how do I make sure that every single one of those gets followed up with? I do automation until somebody raises their hand and tells us to stop. And that's very simply how we're doing with pay-per-click and Facebook leads, 100% automation until they say, hey, I'm interested. Hey, leave me alone. Whatever they're doing, we let them do that. And we've got an automation that'll run for months and months and months. So not everybody's ready right now.
All right. And what systems are you using? What do you have in place? How does that look if you want to get a little bit more in detail?
Yeah, if I want to get a little bit more granular, basically a lead comes in. Depending on whatever the lead source is, it gets a tag. The tag triggers a zap, and the zap turns on a call action drip. So I've got a Facebook lead that comes in. It's going to get labeled. It's going to get labeled as Facebook or some version of that, whatever the label that you set up is. And then step 1 of my action plan is basically to create a tag for that. A tag gets put on that lead, and then that creates a zap. For those of you who aren't familiar with Zapier, Zapier is basically a company that integrates multiple systems into one and makes it relatively streamless. And then basically it's going to trigger a call action drip. Call action is a program that has the ability, very similar to Agent Legend, of being able to run text messages, voicemails, emails, and voicemail drops.
Let let me share. I think I have, let me just pick, this is the back end of Follow a Boss. Hopefully everybody here is on Follow a Boss, right? Here's call action, right? I just need to connect the API. I know Jesse's been bugging me for like, since you did it. And I was like, okay. But I want to do it right, Brian. So look, it's here. I'm going to start it. But for those people that are wondering what the hell this is, it's already built in, and it's exactly what Brian is saying. It's automated process. Brian, can you tell me why you love it and how this works specifically?
Sure. Why don't you let me share my screen and then I'll
Perfect. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, perfect. So what you just saw was similar with this, and I'm gonna make this bigger because I can't tell how much people can see or can't see.
I can see it.
So here's this lead came in. It's a PPC lead. I mentioned that. So this is a PPC lead. This tag right here, start PPC, triggers the drip campaign. And here's the drip campaign that I'm running right here. It's I'm using Eric Hatch's stuff, Hatch Force Registration Lead Buyer Plan.
Nice.
This is the phone number that it's assigned to. It's running. I can do this. I can end it right here. I can pause it right here. All of this stuff happens right inside of the CRM. So what happens? So this is a text message that went out right here that I highlighted. And again, I didn't do any of this. I haven't even looked. So this lead came in 7 hours ago. We start with this text message and then we follow it up with this text message. So we have a bunch of different text messages that we're going to follow it up with. And let me say this. One of the things that I've learned over the last couple of months is be funny. If you're not funny, find someone else who's funny and have them write some of your stuff. So we wrote this thing about basically, I'm sure the reason we can't get a hold of you is because that you were abducted by aliens, and we'll call Elon Musk and have him go out after you. Really a funny thing, honestly. And then there's a little alien gift that goes with that. What happens with
better?
Yeah, it's funny. So you know what? No one ever tells you to F off when you send that text message. They might not want to talk to you, but it's funny because you made them laugh. So if you're a funny person, create some funny stuff. And maybe that's something you and I need to work on, Tristan. We need to work on some funny text messages with gifts we can send out. But humor works. You know, everyone else sent them, when can I help you buy a house? And no one cares. So be somebody different, because remember, when you've generated a pay-per-click lead, a Facebook lead, whatever, there's probably 20 other people who got that same lead, because people are out there filling out form after form after form. You got to be different. So have a little humor in your stuff if that works for you. So
that's a good point. Great. Here's a great question for you, because you know the answer, and it's a good question. Okay. Mario, by the way, Mario, great questions today altogether. The flow of Brian's follow-up boss sounds so smooth. How does FUB have, does FUB have any client support or anyone that can help us set up this flow? And Brian, you texted me someone that could help. Was that, they could help with this or no?
So if you're referring to Jeff, yeah. So Jeff actually has a company called Osiris. And if I said Zapier and you went to sleep, if I started talking about automation and you went, that's not for me because I'm not smart enough, or that's not my area of expertise. I'm a great salesperson, but I can't spell tech. Someone like Jeff Moore, who runs a company called Osiris, is great at connecting tech. And so, I like tech. I'm nerdy. And I think you're the same way, Tristan. So if you're like me and you love it, then I go and I learn how to build Zaps, and I learn how to do all this stuff because it's fun for me. But if I had zero skills along this, I'm going to hire this out. I'm going to find somebody else. And again, in my example is Jeff Moore. He actually will connect all of your tech up. He'll build Zaps for you if you need Zaps. That's what I'm always a big fan of. There are things that I'm not good at. I'm going to hire somebody else to do it. It makes perfect sense to me to do that. That being said, you can do 100% of what I'm talking about manually. So you can follow up with your leads. I've got this little sheet, and again, I'll be happy to post it after the end. I'm going to share my screen again real quick.
You with that sheet, can you post it? So for all, we have about 45 people on here.
Sure.
Which is great for our first one here. Can you do me a favor and post this into the Facebook community for Follow Up Boss? And for those of you who are not part of the Facebook community, let me tell you that we post a lot of things on there. And one of those is going to be this. And the other one is that flow chart that I sent you. We posted up last week. So we'll post it up again for you in the Facebook community. And this is awesome, dude. I love this. Let's this is exactly what you were talking about in the morning at the beginning of this, right?
Yeah. So basically, yeah, just here, and here's the thing that we know, and here's a number that scares the crap out of me. And this is why I started using automation and taking some of the agents out of it. When I've run campaigns, so my pay-per-click campaign right now, which is full automation until somebody responds, we've got a 40% contact rate. So, and think about that. You can go out and depending on your market, you can probably buy pay-per-click leads somewhere between $7 and $25, depending on your market, depending on your keywords, depending on your PPC manager. But the problem becomes, if I'm buying $7 leads and I'm spending $1,000 a month, I got all these leads. Well, guess what? Now if I don't have a good system to follow up with them, it doesn't make sense to get more. And that was the biggest thing for me when I started looking at this. Get more was always my answer, especially when I was a single agent. What do you need? I need more leads. What are you going to do with them? I'm going to close them. But at a certain point in time, you run out of capacity and you have to have a system. So the system, and again, we'll put this in the group, is either to manually follow up with these people or it's to have a computer follow up. Why am I a big fan of having the computer follow up? Because the computer doesn't ever have a bad day. The computer isn't ever sick. The computer doesn't ever pissed off. It just does its thing day after day after day after day. And if you're an agent who's only got 50 leads and you're not currently buying leads, then you don't need automation. But if you're a person who's looking to skim through all of these leads that come in, again, these wide leads that come in, and you want to start going deep with them, figuring out who to go deep with is one of the biggest problems that we have. So wait for that person to respond, set up an automation that says, that creates text message drips that go out for 180 days. There's nothing wrong with that. If someone wants you to do it, the majority of things, I've not personally used Agent Legend, but I'm pretty sure it does the same thing. Somebody types stop, it immediately stops. If somebody even says anything on a call action drip, if they respond, yes, I'd love to talk with you, the drip stops. So all of this stuff keeps you from looking like a crazy person if you're going that. What is the link to the Facebook group is what somebody said, by the way.
Look, just go on to, there's only one follow-up boss success community. So just go onto Facebook, type up follow-up boss success community, and you will see it there. That's where we're going to post this up. We'll let you in today. Brian, I think we need a part 2, dude, but okay. That gives us, this wraps it up. 30 minutes, really quick, to the point, very powerful. Thanks for being on. Everybody, thank you for being on. This is episode 1 of Bosses in Action. We'll see you next week, and we'll see you in the community. Thanks, Brian.
Appreciate it. I'll put that in the group.
Appreciate you, buddy.